In terms of the trade, the history is very interesting. I'm sure a lot of you will know that fish maw, the fagao, is something that has been very long time as part of cooking, as part of medicine, and has a lot of reasons that it's sought after for medicine. But a lot of the history here that we're maybe more familiar with in recent times is we have a fish which is almost exactly the same as the Totoaba, and that's called the Chinese bahaba. It almost looks the same, it gets to the same size, it's very restricted, endemic to southern mainland China. And this species had a high value, and as the numbers of this species went down, the prices went up, until some individuals, you can actually find this on websites, some individual maw was sold for a couple of $100,000 US. I mean, just insane, the prices for this. And as I mentioned in the movie, as these prices got very, very high, people started, instead of actually using them, buying them and using them, they actually started using them as investment pieces. So the use now for these very valuable maw has gone well beyond any kind of medicinal or food use. It's just a money item for the very valuable ones, as far as we can tell. And this is when things get very, very, very difficult, because one of the major threats to much of our wildlife, and the Totoaba and the bahaba are very good examples. A major problem is if something is considered to be a luxury or very special, if it gets rarer, if it gets less and less, the prices go up. And this is a very dangerous thing for many species. And we're seeing this with ivory, we're seeing this with shark fin, certain kinds of shark fin. So this is something that's happening with a lot of different wildlife. And unfortunately, the Totoaba has been caught in this sort of terrible situation. There's one other aspect to the trade in fish maw generally, and in the very valuable fish maw specifically, like the Totoaba, is that in some cases, you may be aware that there have been many campaigns to reduce the use of shark fin, because shark populations are also declining. I mean, so there's probably been a lot in the news about this. Well, a lot of young people now don't want to have shark fin at weddings, and this is all very positive. When we see change, I've seen a lot of change since I've been here in attitudes. This is society attitudes. But what's sometimes taking the place and that being substituted for shark fins, fish maw, valuable fish maw. So this is why we've got to look at the bigger picture. Because as Damián said, there are other species like the Totoaba. This is a fish called a croaker, because it makes a noise. And there are other very similar species which will be the next target if the Totoaba, for example, disappears. And when that next target goes, the next target will go. So this is a one-way street, unless we actually make a change and consider how important it is to keep these animals on our planet. Some of my students have been doing molecular studies, so they can take DNA, and you can actually isolate the DNA and see the species. And just to expand on what Damián has said, so the major amount of maw, and it's sold as croaker maw, croaker is the same family of fish as the Totoaba and the bahaba, is actually a completely different family altogether, coming from the African lakes. So this is a massive amount. We're getting also croaker, this type of fish, from India, Indonesia, different species, but they're sold as something else. So you should be aware what's happening in these markets, that the value is so high and the price is going up. Just look at some of the tags against some of the packets of the maw, that the fishermen and traders, particularly traders, are looking everywhere to source this stuff. And very often the countries have no idea what's going on. There's a possibility to have sustainable maw coming from sustainable fisheries. So there are certain kinds of fish that you get in cold water called the cod. It's a very sort of popular one in the West. And maw fish more comes from the cod as well. So we know this from some of our work. Some of those cod fisheries are sustainably managed. We could have sustainably produced more. So this isn't about not having more. It's about having more which doesn't kill off other species and other parts of our planet. It's about having more which are managed and come from sustainable sources.